This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
Good evening, Philippines, and good day, world. I'm Fatima Nawzil. It's Friday, the 21st of July, 2023, and you're watching Newsline World. We're here to bring you the top stories we've gathered from all over the globe. First, President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. says the Philippines will no longer engage with the ICC, asserting the country's sovereignty over the drug war probe. President Marcos is set to fly to Malaysia for a state visit a day after delivering his second State of the Nation address. A powerful tornado decimates the Pfizer plant in North Carolina, United States, leaving long-term medicine supply at risk. Paramilitary group Wagner is back and is currently training with the Belarusian troops, raising concerns among its neighboring NATO member countries, particularly Poland. And South Korea responds to North Korea's stern warning over the arrival of America's nuclear submarine. These and more for tonight's edition of Newsline World. Soljan Menardo Guevara insisted that the Philippines will focus on its own investigation into the drug war and will start prosecuting those guilty of the crime committed in the drug war. Meanwhile, President Bongbong Marcos said that the Philippines will now totally end its communication to ICC. Let's find out more about this with Margot Gonzalez.
Solicitor General Menardo Guevara insisted that the Philippines has no legal duty to International Criminal Court or ICC. This was after ICC Appeals Chamber said that their judgment on the appeal of the Philippines is not on the jurisdiction. In a message, Guevara said that the Philippines will now focus on its own investigation and prosecution of the crime committed during the drug war of the past administration. According to Guevara, President Marcos had already agreed to end the country's engagement with ICC.
Basta tapos na lahat ng ating pag-uusap sa ICC at kagaya ng sinasabi namin mula sa simula, we will not cooperate with them in any way, shape, or form. They are talking about Filipinos. Their alleged crimes are here in the Philippines. The victims are Filipino. Bakit na pupunta sa The Hague? Kaya dito, tama, that's it. We have no more appeals pending. We have no more actions being taken. I suppose that puts an end to our dealings with the ICC.
As to whether ICC investigators will be allowed to enter the Philippines, Guevara said he will leave the matter to the Justice Department and the Bureau of Immigration. DG Secretary Crispin Remulla already said that ICC is not welcome in the Philippines, saying that the foreign court may commit usurpation of authority if they will force themselves here in the country for their investigation. Remulla also said that he has yet to make a directive to the Bureau of Immigration and still has to know the representatives of the ICC who might possibly enter the Philippines.
Pag-uusapan pa namin ng masinsinan, aalamin pa natin ang mga kung sino-sino yung mga taong maaaring pumunta rito upang ipatupad ang kanilang nais na ang kanilang madilim na balak sa ating bansa. Madilim sapagkat ito'y panghihimasok sa ating sa isang malayang republika.
According to the Justice Secretary, it's better for the ICC to just interfere with countries that do not have a working justice system.
Puntahan nila ang Sudan, puntahan nila yung mga lugar na magugulo, puntahan nila ang yung mga ibang lugar sa Afghanistan, puntahan nila ang Haiti. Maraming mga bansa na nangangailangan ng ICC, hindi tayo yun.
For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Margot Gonzalez, SMNI News.
The Chinese government extends assistance to farmers in Nueva Ecija, Philippines. But what kind of aid is this? Let's find out with MJ Mondihar in his report from the town of Santo Domingo.
Native farmer Milencio Taguinaldo received an invitation to go to the municipal office today. So he made his way to the Santo Domingo gymnasium despite the scorching heat. His journey was worth it, as he's one of the farmers who will receive a free urea fertilizer. With the current price per bag reaching over 1,000 pesos, This aid is invaluable for him.
Malaki pong tulong yung sa aming magsasaka. Lalong-lalo na sa mga mahihirap na kagaya kong walang perang magastos.
For lead farmer Virgie Smith, fertilizer is a significant part of their farming process. That's why they welcomed the development and attended the distribution of free urea.
Ito po sir ay napakalaking tulong para sa aming magsasaka at ito po ay ginagamit namin sa aming mga pagsasaka.
The urea fertilizer distributed to the farmers comes from the Chinese government, amounting to 782 million pesos in value, which was received by the Philippine government last month. In fact, President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. personally received it from Chinese Ambassador Wang Xilian. Now, it can be directly utilized in the fields.
Siyempre, napakalaking tulong po considering na napakamahal ng cost ng fertilizers ngayon.
Central Luzon received a substantial portion of the urea fertilizer from China, accounting for 43% of the total supply. The farmers in Santo Domingo is just part of the thousands who will benefit from it. In total, more than 2,000 bags of urea have been distributed in the municipality.
The foods and a stronger momentum of our cooperation in agriculture. Hand in hand, we are forging ahead to explore new growth areas.
Siyempre po, nagpapasalamat tayo sa ating Department of Agriculture at lalo na po sa ating mga kapartners mula sa People's Republic of China dahil napakalaking tulong nito sa ating mga magsasaka.
With that, the beneficiaries hope for a continued cooperation between China and the Philippines in such projects. For Ganamable of Philippines, MJ Mondihar, SMNI News.
Fears of long-term medicine shortages in U.S. hospitals arise following the tornado strike on the Pfizer plant. Jean Domingo has details.
A destructive EF3 tornado with winds packing 150 miles per hour struck a major Pfizer plant in Rocky Mount, North Carolina on Wednesday, July 19th. Pfizer also confirmed the incident in a Twitter post and said that it is currently assessing the situation to determine the impact on their production. Reports reveal that the pharmaceutical plant suffered extensive damage, resulting in the destruction of approximately 50,000 medicine pallets. This has raised concerns about potential long-term medicine shortages, as the plant supplies 25% of U.S. hospitals' sterile injectables. Despite the severity of the tornado, all Pfizer plant employees were safely evacuated, and thankfully there were no fatalities or serious injuries among them. In addition to the damage at the Pfizer plant, the tornado also caused injuries to 16 people and damaged 89 buildings in the surrounding vicinity. While residents are relieved that there were no fatalities, the region has been further affected by road closures along 195 due to fallen trees. Dozens of homes and buildings were also damaged or completely destroyed. 16 people were injured by the tornado. The community and medical professionals are anxiously awaiting stable medicine supplies, understanding the challenges Pfizer faces during the recovery process. Rebuilding efforts are already underway, but the threat of shortages remains a significant concern. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Jean Domingo, SMNI News.
The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia said the Gulf country stands ready to prove critics wrong about its multi-billion-dollar futuristic mega-city project. Melchizedek Cadiz has news.
Assalamualaikum. Saudi Arabia's so-called ultra-futuristic gigacity has been making waves since it was announced 2 years ago. The $500 billion project has earned praise and at the same time criticisms from critics. A megacity built from scratch standing in the middle of the desert. This is the highly ambitious concept of a linear smart city currently under construction in Saudi Arabia in Neom Tabuk province. The 170-mile-long city known as The Line is designed to have no cars, streets, or carbon emissions and will make it possible for any person to travel from end to end in 20 minutes. The multi-billion-dollar investment is part of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 to modernize the country and to transform it into an international showcase. For critics, the project is another attempt by the Crown Prince to improve his image while questioning its sustainability and likability. But the Crown Prince insisted the project is ready to prove the critics wrong, noting it will help address Saudi Arabia's growing population, which is expected to jump between 50 to 55 million in 2030. Saudi Arabia, a country famous for its oil and for owning the largest sand desert in the world, prepares to host the Saudi Infrastructure Expo in September. The Gulf nation announced a $1 trillion pipeline of infrastructure projects aimed at diversifying its economy beyond oil. Barakalafikum jamian kan hada Melkisedek Kadi sa Akhbar SMNI, Kuwait.
Iraq expelled the Swedish ambassador to the country over the recent Quran burning incident in Stockholm. Kirby Hill Trinidad has more.
The Swedish embassy in Baghdad has suspended operations after protesters stormed the Swedish embassy in the Iraqi capital of Baghdad and set it on fire. The attack took place after Iraqi asylum seeker Salwan Mumika desecrated a copy of the Quran last month in Stockholm, an act that angered the Muslim world. The 37-year-old Iraqi Christian repeated the act on Thursday in front of the presence of the Swedish police. Angry protesters occupied a diplomatic post ahead of the Quran burning, waving flags and chanting slogans for hours while setting part of the building ablaze. Hours later, Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani cut ties with Sweden and expelled the Swedish ambassador to the country. Swedish Foreign Minister Tobias Billström called the attacks completely unacceptable and slammed Iraqi authorities for failing in their responsibility to protect the embassy and its personnel. He warned that the ministry would summon Iraq's chargé d'affaires in Stockholm. Meanwhile, the Iraqi Prime Minister threatened to prosecute those responsible for the attacks. The embassy would be closed to visitors until further notice, while the issuance of passports and emergency documents has also been suspended. Reporting from Sweden, this has been Kirby Trinidad, SMNI News.
A group of protesters supporting the most popular party in Thailand, Move Forward Party, held rally in numerous places in Bangkok this week. Anissa de Guzman reports.
Rallies sprung in different places in Bangkok this week in defense of Move Forward Party leader Pita Limjaronrat as he faced legal challenges and temporarily suspended his parliament duties. The Student Organization of Thailand, the United Front of Thammasat Demonstration, and the Telugus Group have announced scheduled rallies for Friday and Saturday. A political activist also called for another gathering on Sunday to express moral support for Pita and even invited him to attend the rally. To recall, Thailand's constitution suspended the Move Forward Party leader from the parliament over his controversial media shares, which is considered a violation of Thailand's election rules. The 42-year-old prime ministerial candidate denied violating the law. Meanwhile, another network organizing mass protests in the past 4 years also called on senators to resign and to demonstrate their opposition against distorted democracy. Protest leaders called for the immediate resignation of senators who attempted to block Pita and called for the 8-party coalition led by the Progressive Move Forward Party to remain united. Di siya Anissa de Guzman, Arangan Chakuntep Pahanakon, SMNA News, Pratethay, Sawadika.
It's just halfway through the year 2023, but the number of visitors in Thailand has already surpassed the number of tourists it welcomed in 2022. Chatmokol Pisamay Goson has details.
At least 15 million international visitors have already arrived in Thailand during the first 7 months of the year. The number has already exceeded the number of visitors the country welcomed last year.
Aside from being well known for a tourist destination, Thailand has also become a popular location for filmmaking this year, especially after the country's borders reopened to global visitors. The United States reportedly spent the most on filmmaking in Thailand with 519 million baht for 14 projects, followed by China with 349 million baht for 17 projects, Hong Kong, the United Kingdom, and Germany. The Tourism Authority of Thailand, TAT, has pushed its new tourism campaign that aims to promote medical tourism to attract wellness tourists with high purchasing power. Thailand expects to welcome 25 million international visitors in 2023 and aims to collect 3 trillion baht in revenue from tourism in 2024.
For domestic tourism, the Tourism Authority of Thailand plans to promote local attractions in every region to disperse tourism-generated income to local across Thailand. รายงานจากราชบุรี นายชัดมงคลพิสมัยโกศล SMN News ประเทศไทย สวัสดีครับ
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced a scheduled visit to several Pacific nations at a time when the Biden administration shifts its Indo-Pacific strategy into overdrive. Sheena Salim has the news.
Washington's senior official will visit Tonga, New Zealand, and Australia next week as part of efforts by the United States to counter China's influence in the region. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will visit the region from July 28 to 29. The diplomatic tour will be full of meetings with officials from the 3 Pacific nations, including the inauguration of new embassy in Tonga. The State Department told lawmakers it envisions hiring dozens of staffers in the next 5 years and spend at least $10 million for startup, design, and construction costs of new and existing embassies in the region. U.S. President Joe Biden hosted a first-ever summit in Washington with Pacific Island leaders in September of last year. The U.S. also reached an agreement this year with Britain and Australia to supply Canberra with nuclear-powered submarines through the AUKUS deal. The trip will be Blinken's 3rd visit to Asia in a span of 2 months. Reporting from New South Wales, this is Sheena Salim, SMNI News, Australia.
Meanwhile, more news when Newsline World returns.
Good evening, Einar. Welcome to Statecraft.
Pleasure to be here, Sass.
I understand you are the current CEO of Asia Narratives.
It's a group of programs that we put out, which are really just talking about the different narratives about Asia. I feel that there's a miscommunication. And the only way to really explain it is not to say what I think, but say, okay, well, here's the narrative from the US side, here's the narrative from the Chinese side. All right, here are the facts that back up this one. Here are the facts that back up that one. Today, we live in a world where in social media, everyone just says, if you don't agree with me, you're wrong. And there isn't much discussion. So, just voicing an opinion often is not enough. Getting people to think really, you have to go to the underlying issues. Why is the U.S. Pushing one narrative, China pushing another narrative? And that applies to any country. And the good question is, where does your perspective come from? What are you emphasizing? And then if you can look at the perspective from the other side, perhaps you can see where the commonalities, where the miscommunications are. The only answer I can give is that you have to understand, make the effort to understand somebody else's point of view. And that works whether you're in a personal relationship, a business relationship, a negotiation, or if you're a country.
Get to know more with Department of Information and Communications Technology under Secretary David Almirol as we explore the road to e-government and e-services and how they can help ease in the process of doing business.
Well, the e-report and the ELGU is just 2 out of so many features
projects
of the eGov Super App. Okay, so last June, if you remember, we launched the eGov PH app to unify all government services.
Watch Business and Politics with Dante Klink-Ang II every Saturday, 7 to 8 p.m. Only here on SMNI. Truth that matters.
Hatid ng SMNI ang mga programang maghahatid ng serbisyo publiko sa mga overseas Filipino worker. Alamin ang kanilang mga karapatan at mainit na usaping dapat pag-usapan sa kabayan abroad. Kasama sina Kabayan Representative Ron Salo, Lady B at Sara Santos tuwing Biyernes, alas 9 hanggang alas 10 ng gabi.
Lahat po ng mga kabayan po natin sa loob at labas ng Pilipinas, patuloy po kayong tumutok sa Kabayan Abroad.
OFW ka bang nangangailangan ng himpilang pwede mong maging sumbungan? Narito ang OFW Helpline kasama sina Attorney David Casillon, Hannah Jane Sancho at Paul Montibon tuwing Biyernes, alas 10 hanggang alas 11 ng gabi.
Magkaroon ka ng report, significant incident report, and you have to make immediate action.
At hindi lang yan, dahil kung ikaw ay isang OFW, ikaw ang bida sa programang ito.
Una po ang OFW, ikaw ang bida. Ito po ang ating regalo po para sa inyo at mula po sa SMNI.
Ngayong August 26, makakasama na si OFW Parties Representative Marisa Del Mar Magsino tuwing Sabado, alas 5 hanggang alas 10 ng gabi. Dito lang yan sa SMNI. Para sa Diyos at sa Pilipinas nating mahal.
They say that each brand has a story. As for the Filipino brand, ours is deeply rooted in our rich cultural heritage, and the tourism sector plays an invaluable role in the promotion of the Filipino brand. To foster the Filipino brand is to spark our sense of pride and reaffirm our strong sense of identity. It is time to welcome the rest of the world with an enhanced Filipino brand that is unique, attractive, and creative.
Matapos ang isang taong panunungkulan, paano nga ba tinugunan ng administrasyon ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. ang mga hamon sa sektor ng turismo mula sa epekto ng pandemya? At sa unti-unting pagbangon ng turismo, handa na ba ang Pilipinas na maging isa sa mga premier tourist destination na mamahalin hindi lang ng mga Pilipino, kundi maging ng ibang mga lahi?
That's what we intend to do.
Yeah.
To herald the best of the Filipino brand, the best of the Filipino people through our food, our festivals, ang mga produkto nato sa atong mga local artisans and makers. To give our country an opportunity to market itself, not just as a fun destination, which it is, but also as a place where you can have a substantial and immersive experience and learn about the beauty and diversity of our country.
We are praying that in the future you will do more for our country as our tourism secretary, for the enlightenment of most of us Filipinos, that we don't have to look at any other countries for such things as the nature, the wealth of nature that we have here.
And the reason is, I think, to us all quite obvious. Because we in the Philippines have been so fortunate to have been born to this very beautiful country. And even more so, we have been so lucky to be born to such beautiful people. Ang aking pangarap sa aking administrasyon ay sana ay wala nang gutom na Pilipino. The role of agriculture cries for the urgent attention that its neglect and misdirection now demands. Food self-sufficiency has been the key promise of every administration. None but one delivered. At gagawa tayo ng mga paraan upang maramdaman ng mga mamimili ang pagluluwag ng presyo ng mga produktong pagkain sa kayang halaga, gaya ng muling pagbubuhay ng mga Kadiwa Center. Hindi ito magagawa sa isang araw. Hindi magagawa sa isang buwan o isang taon lamang. Ngunit, kailangan na natin simulaan ngayon.
The President was a very big help po to the sugar industry. Si farmer is super happy because this is the first time in the history of the industry, pag tiningnan mo, na yung price po stable for this crop year under PBBM's term. I think this is one of the best crop years that we've had. We're very challenged with weather, but now we feel, no, as farmers, we feel, and we saw, it not only feel, but we saw that the prices were very stable for us. The President made sure that the farmers get 60 pesos. He kept saying it, he was insisting on it. Sa mga meetings po, sinasabi niya talaga yan. 60 sa farmer, 85 sa consumer. Yun talaga yung pinagsasabi niya ever since before. And nakita naman po, andyan naman. So for this year po, big help. The President was a very big help po to the sugar industry.
I believe na nagkaroon ng bagong pag-asa na strengthen yung ano natin, yung seriousness to support yung agri-fishery sector. And I'm excited and I'm looking forward dun sa next years ng sa panunungkol ng ating Pangulo na maisulong yung interes ng ating mga magsasaka at ng ating mga mangingisda.
Naniniwala na kami. Now, Mr. President, we can say that in your first year as President of the Republic, you have done a lot for our country, and therefore now you deserve your own place under the sun.
We will achieve the country all Filipinos deserve. God bless the Philippines. God bless our work. We will be a good neighbor, always looking for ways to collaborate and cooperate with the end goal of mutually beneficial outcomes. But let me be clear, we are very jealous of all that is Filipino.
Paano nga ba pinangatawa ng Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ang neutral foreign policy na ito? Naging balanse ba ang kanyang pakikitungo sa tinaguriang world superpowers sa unang taon ng kanyang panunungkulan?
The United States also remains ironclad in our commitment to the defense of the Philippines, including the South China Sea.
What is crucial is how you handle the differences. As for China and the Philippines, yes, we have the maritime differences, but we need to handle it in a proper manner.
My fear about the buildup, the renewed buildup of U.S. bases in the Philippines, is that this is precisely the wrong direction.
It is absolutely important for all these countries to engage in peace and negotiation and diplomacy, rather than allowing the territorial disputes to flare up into conflict or confrontation or even leading to war.
If we agree, we will cooperate and we will work together. And if we differ, let us talk some more until we develop a consensus. After all, that is the Filipino way. of an economy is its infrastructure. The infrastructure program of the Duterte administration must not only continue, but wherever possible, be expanded. We shall confidently build on this firm foundation established by my predecessor, as it is in building an edifice. We must keep the momentum and aspire to build better, more. Necessarily, infrastructure development will remain a very high priority in our drive for growth and employment. Infrastructure development spending will be sustained at 5 to 6% of GDP. This administration is committed to finish building the current portfolio of investments. Improving our railway system along with modernizing existing airports and seaports will maximize our strategic location in the Pacific and connect our many islands. My order to the Department of Transportation, or DOTR, is really very simple. Full speed ahead. Through our Build Better More flagship program, we have placed infrastructure development as the pinnacle of our vision for an equitable, prosperous, and resilient Philippines by 2040.
Investigation continues as more horses died from a mysterious disease in the Australian state of Victoria. Sasha Hassa tells us more.
Death toll rose to 13 as more horses died from an unknown illness in several Victorian farms this week. All deaths occurred within 48 hours of the rapid onset of a severe and specified illness at 5 properties.
As more horses died from a mysterious disease in the Australian state of Victoria. Sasha Hassa tells us more.
These deaths are still being investigated.
Death
Authorities
rose to
believe none of these horses died from an unknown illness in several Victorian farms. Officials said there is no reason to restrict horse movements or horse events at this point. Severe and specified illness at 5 properties. All at least 30 kilometers apart. Officials describe their deaths as very unusual. The possible links between these deaths are still being investigated. Authorities believe none of these horses died from infectious illness, making their deaths more bizarre. Officials said there is no reason to restrict horse movements or horse events at this point.
For Qatar's role
Reporting
in
from
promoting
Sydney,
the
this has
peaceful
been
uses
Sasha Hassa,
of nuclear energy
News,
globally,
Australia.
such as preventing nuclear proliferation and assisting
International
member states
Atomic
in
Energy
benefiting from
Agency.
nuclear technologies. The Director General also expressed his deep appreciation for the generous contributions of the oil-rich Gulf nation in financing the agency's various programs and projects. Qatar's envoy and permanent representative to the United Nations, on the other hand, emphasized Doha's unwavering commitment in supporting the global nuclear energy's upcoming plans. The IAEA is the agency tasked to strengthen the global nuclear safety and security framework. Qatar joined the IAEA's Board of Governors for 2022 to 2024 during the 66th General Conference of the Nuclear Energy in September of last year. Reporting, this has been Carlo de la Peña, SMNI News.
The BRICS bloc's expansion has sparked global interest as over 40 countries are eager to join, all eyeing collective political influence. Francine Sagarino has details.
More than 40 countries have expressed interest in joining the BRICS bloc, as revealed by South Africa's envoy. The BRICS group, comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, was established in 2009 to counterbalance the influence of advanced economies. With formal negotiation for expansion starting last year, the growing interest from numerous nations signifies the potential for enhanced collaboration and bolstered political influence in global affairs. Anil Suklal, South Africa's ambassador to BRICS, stated that the 22 countries have formally approached the bloc, and an equal number of informal approaches have been received. Among those interested in joining are Argentina, Bangladesh, the UAE, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and some European nations. The expansion plans have gained support from China and South Africa, but Russia's alignment is expected, while Brazil and India have expressed concerns about potential power declines. Despite BRICS members constituting 42% of global population, they only hold 15% of voting power at the World Bank and IMF. The upcoming BRICS conference hosted by South Africa is set to address the expansion topic and its implications, with discussions on membership dynamics expected to be prominent on the agenda. The organization's move towards expanding could mark a significant shift in its overall political influence and partnership in international arena. South Africa is set to host a BRICS Leaders Summit in Johannesburg and will be attended by top leaders of the bloc. Russian President Vladimir Putin, on the other hand, will reportedly attend the summit by video call, with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov attending the event in person. Reporting this has been Francine Segarino, SMNI News.
South Korea responds to North Korea's warning over the recent United States nuclear submarine arrival in the southeastern port city of Busan. Ethel Park tells us more.
For the first time in more than 4 decades, a United States submarine capable of launching nuclear ballistic missiles has docked in South Korea earlier this week, angering Pyongyang. The USS Kentucky, 18,750-ton Ohio-class nuclear ballistic missile submarine, or SSBN, arrived in Busan, South Korea, Tuesday on the same day of the inaugural meeting of the South Korea-US Nuclear Consultative Group, or NCG. According to North Korea's state-run media, Korea Central News Agency, or KCNA, Pyongyang's Defense Minister Kang Son-nam issued a warning through a statement on Thursday. He said, and I quote, "I remind the U.S. military of the fact that the ever-increasing visibility of the deployment of the strategic nuclear submarine and other strategic assets may fall under the conditions of the use of nuclear weapons specified in DPRK law on the nuclear force policy." To the U.S. and the ROK, any use of their military muscle against the DPRK will be their most miserable choice, by which they will have no room to think of their existence again. In response to this, South Korea's defense ministry also said in a statement, "In the event of any North Korean nuclear attack against the South Korea-US alliance, it will face an immediate, overwhelming, and decisive response from the alliance, and we strongly warn again that through this, the attack will result in the end of the North Korean regime. North Korea will never gain any concessions from the South Korea-US alliance through its nuclear development and threats. We urge it to recognize that its isolation and destitution will only deepen and to come out swiftly on the path of denuclearization." According to the United States, the U.S. Navy Ohio-class ballistic missile submarine, USS Kentucky, or SSBN 737 port visit in Busan is their commitment to the Republic of Korea for their extended deterrence guarantee that they are available and ready to operate around the globe at any time. It can be recalled that Pyongyang launched 2 short-range ballistic missiles on Wednesday, and currently tensions in the region remain high. Sol Isobogo at Al Park Imrida, SMNI News, South Korea.
Japan and India pledged to beef up their country's supply chains of semiconductors amid China's growing influence in the Indo-Pacific region. More of this report from Diana Flores.
Japanese Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry Yasutoshi Nishimura held talks with India's Minister of Electronics and Information Technology Ashwini Vaishnaw Thursday in New Delhi and signed a memorandum of understanding on strengthening semiconductor supply chains. The agreement between Japan and India held in New Delhi Thursday comes amid China's rising influence in the Indo-Pacific region to beef up the country's semiconductor supply chains. According to Nishimura, Japan seeks to deepen partnerships with its allied nations to develop more supply chains for critical products and materials, including semiconductors, batteries, and minerals, as Japan lags behind global rivals in the ability to manufacture complete semiconductor products. India is also seeking to improve its own production of semiconductors as the country relies on China for most of its semiconductor imports. After meeting with Vaishnaw, Nishimura said that India has excellent human resources in the field of semiconductor design. He also added that using each other's strengths, Japan and India wants to push forward with concrete projects as early as possible. It can be noted that together with the United States and Australia, Japan and India are
are part of the multilateral security framework, the Quad. To add, United States President Joe Biden and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi are eyeing for a bilateral summit in Washington June to discuss ways to strengthen semiconductor supply chains and also industrial materials and technologies. Ijo Diana Flores, Tokyo Kara Hokuko Itashimashita, SMNI News, Japan.
President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. will reportedly fly to Malaysia for a state visit a day after delivering his State of the Nation address or SONA to the Filipino people. Hannah Jane Sancho reports.
Bongbong Marcos Jr. along with First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos are set to fly to Malaysia for a 3-day state visit from July 25 to 27, 2023. Aside from the First Lady, the President will also bring with him a delegation composed of key cabinet officials, including the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, as well as members of the economic team. In a palace briefing, the Department of Foreign Affairs said that President Marcos will travel to Malaysia at the invitation of the 16th King, Sultan Abdullah Sultan Ahmad Shah, and the two are also expected to meet.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and First Lady Maria Luisa Araneta Marcos were invited by the King of Malaysia to undertake a state visit to the country on 25th to 27 July 2023. During the visit, the President will have an audience with the King of Malaysia and a meeting with the Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim to identify new areas of synergy between the two countries.
The President will also meet with Malaysian Prime Minister Dato Seri Anwar Ibrahim. It can be remembered that both leaders had talked to each other during Anwar's March visit to the Philippines, wherein Marcos and Anwar stressed cooperation in the field of politics and security, especially in fighting transnational crime and terrorism. Anwar's visit to the Philippines marks the first ever official visit of a head of a government for the year 2023. President Marcos is also expected to meet Malaysian business leaders, together with his delegation, in an effort to seek more investment opportunities for Filipinos.
During the visit, the Philippines will also meet with prominent Filipino and Malaysian business leaders to enhance bilateral trade and investment and to explore economic opportunities for the Filipino people.
President Marcos is also expected to personally meet with Filipinos in Malaysia and greet them in Kuala Lumpur. According to the 2022 data from the Department of Foreign Affairs, there are around 100,000 Filipinos currently working and residing in Malaysia. Of this number, 14,488 are Filipinos working as household service sector. 300 are professional workers, 700 are highly skilled workers, 800 are semi-skilled workers, and 260 are general laborers. The DFA also said that the Maharlika Investment Fund is expected to be raised during PBBM's state visit to Malaysia next week.
Yes, it's very safe to assume that it will maybe be raised and promoted during this visit.
On the other hand, the DFA said it cannot confirm whether the Sabah issue will also be discussed. It can be remembered that President Marcos has stressed the need for an in-depth talks over the issue. President Marcos has also talked about his stance on Sabah claim in a blog post following Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar's visit to the Philippines last March.
Pag-usapan din namin ang issue ng Sabah. Yun, alam nyo naman, meron tayong claim dyan sa Sabah na sinasabi natin na nasa Pilipinas yan. Ay ngayon, sila ang administrator ng Sabah. Kaya sabi namin, kailangan natin pag-usapan ng masinsinan yan. Yung mga foreign affairs secretary namin ay mag-uusap tungkol dyan kung anong pwede pa natin gawin.
The Philippine government is expecting President Marcos to reap more investment pledges that will pave way for more opportunities for Filipinos. For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Hannah Jane Sancho, SMNI News.
Following its short-lived mutiny in late June, Russia's private military group Wagner began training Belarusian special forces near the border of Poland. Hans Marshall files this report.
Belarusian special forces are holding joint drills with Wagner forces at a firing range near the border city of Brest. According to Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin, the private military group would no longer take part in the Russia-Ukraine conflict for now, but they will gather their strength before going to Africa. Prigozhin said that their goal was to make the Belarusian army the second strongest army in the world. The Wagner chief also released a video, his first public appearance since the mutiny. In the video, Prigozhin can be heard saying that he and his men will stay in Belarus for some time, then they will move to Africa. He was also heard criticizing the current situation on the battlefield.
Приветствую, парни! Рады вас всех приветствовать! Приездом на белорусскую землю! Мы достойно воевали! Вы сделали для России очень много! Сейчас то, что происходит на фронте, это позор, в котором нам не нужно участвовать. И дождаться того момента, когда мы сможем проявить себя по полной программе. Поэтому принято решение, что мы будем находиться здесь, в Беларуси, какое-то время. За это время мы сделаем, и я в этом уверен, белорусскую армию второй армией в мире. А если нужно, то вступимся за них, в случае, если это потребуется. Я всех хочу попросить максимально обратить внимание на то, что белорусы встретили нас не только как героев, но как братьев. Но аккуратно, чтобы никого не обидеть из них. Поэтому отнесемся к ним также по-братски. Дальше готовимся. Повышаем свой уровень и в новый путь, в Африку. И, возможно, вернемся на СВО в тот момент, когда будем уверены, что нас не заставят посрамить самих себя и наш опыт.
Reports say that up to 10,000 fighters will end up in Belarus. It can be remembered that in early July, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko suggested that Wagner forces could be used to defend Belarus, inviting the group to train the Belarusian military. He also said he is not troubled to have a certain number of Wagner fighters stationed in the country. Lukashenko is a longtime friend of Prigozhin and Russian President Vladimir Putin, who brokered a deal to end the mutiny. The prospect of Wagner's moving to Belarus made neighboring countries wary, particularly Ukraine and NATO member Poland. In response to the joint drills, Poland has redeployed its troops. In a statement, Poland's defense minister said that it was ready for various scenarios as the situation develops. Earlier in July, Poland deployed hundreds of soldiers and vehicles to the border with Belarus, saying that it needs to prevent attempts to destabilize the region, with Warsaw's 12 Mechanized Division saying that around 1,000 troops and 200 units of equipment will be stationed in the eastern province of Podlaski, located on the border with Belarus. Belarus made similar allegations against Poland, claiming that Minsk coup plotters are being trained in Poland. Ukraine is also wary after satellite photos emerge, suggesting that Belarus is building an army camp for Wagner fighters located at a former military base outside Osipovichi, a Belarusian town 230 kilometers north of the Ukrainian border. It can be noted that the Wagner forces in Belarus are in line with the deal struck way back on the 24th of June. Back then, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that members of the mercenary could either leave for Belarus, come under the command of the Defense Ministry, or go back to their families. This is Hans Marshall reporting, SMNA News.
And before we end, may we be inspired with the message of the appointed Son of God. for today's edition of Newsline World. For more news update, you may visit smninewschannel.com or follow us on our official social media accounts on Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Fatima Nawzil. Thank you for watching Newsline World. And thank you to our beloved pastor, Pastor Polo C. Kibuloy, for the opportunity to be a part of this program. May you continue to listen to SMNI as it delivers nothing but fair, truthful, and balanced news, because SMNI is your source of credible news.